Twitter has announced new content moderation policies for the upcoming midterm elections. It says the rules are intended to crack down on, quote, harmful, misleading information about elections and civic events.
Here to give us the details on these new policies and how they may impact midterm races is Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham. So, Megan, we all know that big tech has faced a lot of scrutiny regarding content moderation in the past few years, with some people saying it verges on censorship. But what specifically does Twitter's new policy entail?
Hey, Georgia. You have to say that some of these new actions should be pretty non-controversial. What they're going to do is primarily build on the rules that the company first put in place in 2018. They're going to be doing things like labeling or removing misleading posts about where or when to vote or who can vote. And then they're also going to be creating notifications so that users will know when the polls are open in specific states. They're also going to ramp up their verification process so that they can weed out imposter accounts posing as real candidates. Pretty standard stuff there. However, the company also says it's going to label or remove posts intended to undermine public confidence in an election. And it's also going to boost posts from quote unquote credible news sources. So that's the part that's setting off alarm bells. The policy doesn't explain how moderators are going to decide what's credible and what undermines public confidence. And when you look at their history and consider that they banned former President Trump and suppressed a legitimate news story from the New York Post about Hunter Biden's laptop, that announcement has some conservatives concerned.
Now, is there any sign that Twitter plans to shift the approach to assuage some of those concerns?
Twitter has never officially addressed its decision to censor that Post story or to also lock the newspaper out of its account, though former CEO Jack Dorsey did later call those actions unacceptable. So I talked to Carl Szabo, who is vice president and general counsel for NetChoice, a tech trade organization. He thinks that Elon Musk's very public battles with the company has taught it some lessons about changes it needs to make to serve users across the political spectrum.
I will say when the White House had put out its statement saying that inflation was at 0%, we had zero inflation, Twitter actually had flagged that and was pointing people to other newspapers and sites showing what the real facts are on that data. So I don't know how they're going to ultimately play it as we go forward, but I will tell you from that one anecdote that I saw, it's clear that they're trying to be politically agnostic.
Now, that said, I should add that not every conservative agrees with Szabo on this. Constitutional attorney Harmeet Dillon, who, full disclosure, has represented the Daily Wire before, well, she published an op-ed at Fox News this week warning that Twitter will likely use these policies to benefit Democrats. Just a couple of weeks ago, the platform suspended the parents' rights group Moms for Liberty for saying of a California transgender bill that gender dysphoria is a mental health disorder being normalized by predators. So clearly you look at that, and that is political speech about a specific piece of proposed legislation. Twitter says it violated their content policies.
Now, does Szabo have any ideas about how they could address this kind of thing in a more fair way?
Well, his organization advocates for free markets, so he's really pointing to competition from new platforms like Getter and Rumble. But he thinks that the worst thing that could happen would be for the government to get involved in moderating Twitter's content moderators, so to speak. He really wants the markets to be left to work this out on their own.
And certainly the press has a role in spreading this information as well, so we're going to keep covering the issue. Megan, thanks for reporting.
Yeah, anytime.
That's Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham.